NFC North running backs. The Detroit Lions have a couple of them that are very, very good and we're very, very high on. So, D-Mac, I'm going to ask you the question first. Who is the best running back in the NFC North?
You know, I think that you want to go specifically or whatever, then I'm going to give it to Jahmyr Gibbs.
Sure.
But I look at units. I don't separate him and Montgomery.
Yeah.
So that puts them on Thunder and Lightning to whatever else, what they do together. And I think they've proven it. And I think that Ben Johnson really we've seen it's so valuable. And then the biggest thing is if they're both healthy, then just different looks that they can throw at it. But no, if I could have any of the running game in the NFC, it's and there's a lot of talent. Don't get me wrong, but it's ours. It's ours.
Sure.
From what we've seen last year, David Montgomery came in and was everything as advertised.
And then some.
He's getting better.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are all getting better. So if I was I know you make me pick one or whatever, I'd say Jahmyr Gibbs because I think that what we saw was just the beginning.
Yeah.
He's gonna crack. I mean, legitimately, what do you put on him all purpose? Like 12, 13?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
definitely.
Probably more than that.
Rennie, and here's the difference, right? You just realize when you are good, when you legitimately, you will undervalue.
Yeah.
Right? You'll be like, oh, okay, I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but he can get there. It could be 12 to 15 all day.
Oh, 100%. He damn near had 1,300 last year. But
That's what I'm saying.
Jahmyr Gibbs was absolutely fantastic. And that's pretty much the consensus around the chat right now. Most people are saying Gibbs, but I definitely appreciate you lumping Gibbs and Montgomery into a duo because that's 100% a fair answer as well. Because as a running back duo, you can't really beat them in NFL, really.
Isn't it unique, though?
Yeah.
Right? You always want Thunder and Lightning.
Yeah.
So they can give it, because what would it usually be? Let's get it inside the 5, or we'd have to get it to the 5 so Jamal could pound it in because he's only going to get it in from 1 or 2 or whatever like this. Now you got Montgomery carrying guys in from 5 or 6, or you got Gibbs from out there, or if we get to the 1, pretty much.
Yeah.
Right? Montgomery, he falls forward for 3 yards every play. Spenny, how many times last year were we watching? We sat there and watched him every play. You ever see him? I said to you, if he falls backwards or loses yards, let me know.
Yeah. His yards after contact are insane. That is a big thing. The first guy at the point of attack isn't going to stop D-Mont. But I'm going with Gibbs, too. You know, he was the most explosive back in the NFL last year. He had the most carries of over 20 yards in the entire NFL. And it was just impressive to watch. I think he's going to take more of that lead role next year. They're going to be using him more. He didn't even really get off in the passing game like we thought he would. Like he had. If you look at his catches at the end of the year, it's like, damn, I didn't think he had that many catches. I think he had like 50 or 60 or something like that.
It didn't seem like it.
But I think he's going to improve that part of his game next year as well. And I could see him at 1,600 plus all-purpose yards easy.
1,600, I think, is more than attainable because I think he will get 1,000 yards this year. That's health dependent, of course, because the running back position, that's you're in a car crash pretty much every single time you carry the ball. But
and just based on how to use them.
Absolutely, KG, are you going to make it a consensus with Jahmyr Gibbs being the best back in the NFC North?
I am not. Because I do agree that Jahmyr Gibbs, of course, the big playability and all the flashy stuff that he does, but right now, if we're going off recency and stats, I would say D-Mont. D-Mont is the best back in the NFC North, and he gives you everything. He gives you short yardage. He gives you big plays. He can do it all. Like, he's a really good all-around back, and it is great that we do have a Jahmyr Gibbs behind him, in which, like you said, is the lightning. He can give you those big plays out of the backfield, along with just being able to run between the tackles and outside, but D-Mont has been a complete running back since he has been behind this offensive line, man. So I got to say D-Mont right now.
That's fair. I would go Gibbs, but I can't hate you for the D-Mont take. And obviously, even throughout the beginning of the season, I think a lot of us, or I'm just going to speak for myself, didn't think he was capable of a 75-yard touchdown run. But he did it.
Yeah.
He had probably the greatest run of the season. Hey, he had a couple big runs, but that 75-yarder was probably the best run of the season and definitely the best run of his career. And he showed off a burst that I didn't even know that he had. And certainly, I wasn't as big of a D-Mont person before the season, but he proved me wrong.
Yeah.
D-Mont got behind a better offensive line and averaged 4.6 yards per carry, over 1,000 yards. He was absolutely phenomenal. Korean Jesus. best running back in the NFC North. What do you got?
I got Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm on the train. You can't take me off. I think that he is the best. I think he's the best talent for sure, and I think you'll see him reach the level, I believe, on the field where you can claim that he is the best running back in the NFC North.
Here's what I love, right? Just even breaking it down to like the value to each other, because you know what, like Monty running hard was softens those guys up. So Gibbs, like when you give Gibbs a little bit, like this much outside with speed, where a guy's got to reach for him instead of being in.
He's gone.
Yeah.
But they help each other, and then the susceptibility. So it's going to be very interesting. Again, it's just all about staying healthy.
Exactly. Keeps him healthy, keeps him fresh,
available, but the beauty is we know when if one of them is not, what the other one can do in its place, and I think that's what makes it's not a wrong answer for both.
Yeah.
No, and I see Brandon Katz mentioning Josh Jacobs, and for the record, I'm not a Josh Jacobs hater or anything like that. I just look at him. Hey, fair enough. He had 805 yards last year on 3.5 yards per carry, and he missed some games. I'm not saying that was all his fault, and obviously he was hampered by injury, and playing for the Raiders isn't the easiest thing in the world, but I can't put him at number one or even really top 2 or 3 in the NFC
He's not better
North
than
for now.
Aaron Jones, technically.
I would put Aaron Jones if he's healthy over Josh.
Aaron Jones, one of the craziest stats about him is that he averages 5 yards per carry for his career. And he's had 3,000-yard seasons. It's not like he's carrying the ball 150 times. This guy gets every down back type of carries. And even last year he had some injury issues. He missed some games. He came on really strong at the end of the year, and I believe he had 228 yards and rushing in 2 combined playoff games on about 6 yards per carry. Aaron Jones
can't stay healthy.
Yeah,
if he can stay healthy, he'd be a dog. And what was it? Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing 2 years ago,
2022.
But he had like 350 carries.
Yeah,
like it was an insane amount of carries that he had that year. I remember I had him on my fantasy team. He was a dog, but he was getting the ball 30 times a game.
To be fair, though, he did average 5 yards per carry.
Yeah.
So like he made the most of his like large amount of carries, but that's going to wear a running back down. And I think that might have had something to do with the fact that he missed 4 games last year and had a disappointing season. But for the record, maybe the Packers with their go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't blame Josh Jacobs for what happened last year because the Raiders, he was in a bad scheme. Like after obviously, I can't even remember. Scott McDaniels left and Antonio Pierce took over. It's not the best offensive scheme. He didn't have a quarterback who could throw the ball, so they didn't have to worry about it, even though they had 2 great wide receivers.
They just stacked the box.
They were just stacking the box, So, and their offensive line sucked.
And he might thrive in Green Bay. I wouldn't put that past him at all. And maybe next year going into the season, we're having a different conversation. But I personally, if I were to give my top 5 really quick, I won't elaborate too much. I'd go Jahmyr Gibbs number 1. I think this guy, by the end of the season, you could be looking at him as a top 3 back in the NFL.
I agree.
You saw way more, I would say, out of the running game from him than you expected. You saw more between the tackles. You obviously saw the burst that we all knew was there. You saw the power. You saw him throw Antoine Winfield Jr. just because he could. And I'm not saying, and I get it, that's just an anecdotal moment, but that showed a lot to me. And I also expect him to get more targets and get more involved in the receiving game this year, especially because the Lions got rid of Josh Reynolds, and those targets are going to have to be spread about. I know J-Mo is going to get some, but Jahmyr Gibbs I could see get some as well. Number 2, I would personally go Aaron Jones, then DeMont, then Josh Jacobs, and then DeAndre Swift, who I think gets a little bit disrespected, but DeAndre Swift did have 1,000 yards.
I don't even think DeAndre Swift is going to be the best running back in his own team.
I don't think he's going to play a whole season.
How many games does he play?
Well, last year 12? He played a lot.
I was going to say 12.
Yeah. I think Roshan Johnson is going to be a better back than DeAndre Swift next year.
Damn. That's a bold take.
I'll tell you what, though. As much as I don't think they have the high-end running backs that the rest of the division has, 5, 6, and 7, I would probably go Swift, Herbert, and then Roshan Johnson.
Yeah. I agree.
They've got a bit of a 3-headed monster, and Herbert and Swift are more like finesse backs, but Roshan Johnson is just an absolute hammer.
He's a dog.
He's 100% a hammer. But yeah, the point is that Jahmyr Gibbs, the way he was able to progress last year and what he's shown me leads credence to that he's the best running back in the NFC North to me. And even the numbers with the 20-plus yard carries, with the 10 touchdowns, with the numbers, with the 5 yards per carry. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think personally, I mean, would you guys all agree that Jahmyr Gibbs, at least to some extent, exceeded expectations?
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
mean, I was
He
saying
almost had 1,000 yards as a backup running back.
I was saying mid-season, and if you guys watch me in a different life on this network, and people thought that it was hate towards David Montgomery, but it wasn't. I think Jahmyr Gibbs passed David Montgomery on his own team after the Raiders game.
I agree.
He finally got that opportunity to carry a whole workload. I know he kind of did against Atlanta, but to really carry a whole workload and thrive against the Raiders. And he was the best player on the field.
Yeah.
He absolutely dominated. And we all know how talented he is, being the number 12 overall pick. The speed, the power, the explosiveness, the burst. I think he showed great vision. He can follow blocks. He's patient. This man has it all from the running back position. The only thing he maybe doesn't have is size, but he just has to avoid taking too many hits, and that's where David Montgomery comes in to maybe lessen the workload a little bit. But I think that's how the Lions are going to want to use them both this year, as a little bit of a tandem. Yeah. But I would probably want Jahmyr Gibbs getting the lion's share of the touches, or at least the majority, because I think
until it's time. And I don't think it's to change it up, but I think it's to bring in the hammer, right? Because the hammer soft. I think that David Montgomery and what he did last year and stuff like it, he's got to seal it to what it is, but his ceiling opens Gibbs up even more, right?
Yeah,
so you don't have to bell cow him and stuff like that. Our only guy you can, because Monty can, who's the guy you want to get the ball with the lead, with the 2-score lead late, right? Monty. Just keep feeding this guy. You don't want to feed Gibbs and stuff like this, but these guys are gonna. And we saw it, Sam. You're exactly right, because what that Raider game gave you is that yes, he's everything we thought he was, but how he's more of the Fedorov, right? He's more of the Fedorov. So how do you make the Fedorov the best player out there? Is you surround him, and you give him some support.